Here is the classic stuffed acorn squash with a twist, surprise fruit, and paleo ground with organ meats. As always, we start with fresh ingredients when possible. Autumn is here in the Pacific Northwest, and this brings acorn squash, a small acorn-shaped variety with a thick dark green rind and orange flesh. They have a nutty, savory, sweet flavor that I just love. You can choose a wide option of ground meat for stuffing. Here I have a ground beef organ meat combination, 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, so no unwanted feedlot ingredients. A basket of oyster mushrooms, so good for you, and a beautiful shape and design. For our aromatics, a cluster of shallots. And from the leafy green family, green curly kale, loaded with important micronutrients and antioxidants. And a brilliant green pear to use in place of our apple for a twist on our P&W sauce later. Finally, a sweet surprise. I found these organic dried figs for topping at the end as an option. All right, let's dive into our peaceful prep. We start by salting our ground. This is an important step in creating juicy flavor in the stuffing mix. This ground is sometimes called Paleo, a combination of lean ground beef, usually chuck or brisket, and organ meats, usually liver, heart, and kidney. It's impossible to overstate how powerful these are for your body. Season all sides of the thawed or partially thawed meat with a generous amount of salt. Massage in with your hands. I usually do this with gratitude toward the cow. And then break into small bite-sized pieces so they're ready for the sauté later. Again, organ meats are nature's most nutrient-dense food, loaded with vitamins, minerals, amino acids, collagen, antioxidants, and so much more. All right, we set this aside and continue with our plant prep. Next, we cut our adorable acorn squash in half for roasting. Simply place your sharp knife securely on the top of the squash, and then I use my melon mallet to pound on the blade, letting the knife do the work, and your hands are safe from harm. Scoop out the inner seeds and strings. I use my large measuring spoon. Roasted squash is a fall and winter mealtime staple in our home. It's versatile with so many varieties to choose from, and each with their own nutrients and flavors. Place the squash on your handy and dependable sheet pan. Drizzle with nutrient-rich cooking fat like extra virgin olive oil, and a generous sprinkle of kosher salt. Remember, salt is the sparkle in your food. It's helpful to massage the oil and salt into the meat of the squash to help bring out the full flavor and texture of the squash while roasting. Turn the squash face side down on the sheet pan. This allows for beautiful caramelization while cooking, and place in the oven for about 30 minutes or so at our usual 400 degrees Fahrenheit. While the squash roasts, we continue with our prep. From the aromatics family, a few shallots if you can find them. They're a little sweeter than regular onions where you want oniony flavor without too much punch. Remember our knife technique. Hold with your crab hand, letting your knuckles guide the blade of the knife, fingers free from harm. Then with your knife hand, lift at the wrist, down and forward. These delicate yet powerful mushrooms are so easy to prepare, just a simple tear lengthwise. I love their oyster or fan-shaped caps with a magnificent gill-like lining on the underside. Oyster mushrooms are beloved for their mild, savory flavor. I decided to cut them into smaller dices for this dish, and this may seem like a lot, but remember how they shrink when sautéing. Here I decided to prep a ripe pear for garnish and addition to our sauce later, replacing our apple just to change things up. Cut in half, again into quarters, and then on the diagonal to carve out the core. And a slice and dice of our dried figs. They can help improve digestion, manage blood fat and blood sugar levels, and some reports say help kill cancer cells. Last but not least, our green curly kale. Prep is so easy with a simple strip of the leaves from the stems. Kale is rich in antioxidants, vitamin C, K, and beta-carotene. It supports eye health, weight management, heart health, and is one of the most nutritious leafy greens available. Gather into a pile and rough cut into bite-sized pieces for easy sauté later. I try to include greens in just about all of my dishes because, well, they're just packed with so many nutrients. And this may seem like a lot of greens, but remember, they shrink during sautéing. Now, our last prep step. Pull your roasted squash from the oven. Just look at that sweet, savory caramelization. Food gold. After acorn squash has cooled a minute, it's time to scoop the meat out of the shell. Acorn squash are packed with vitamin C, B vitamins, and magnesium, which is a mineral vital to bone and heart health, also rich in fiber for gut health. While you scoop, savor your efforts. It's no small thing to feed your body wholesome food that's thoughtfully prepared. An excellent way to feed the good guys in your microbiome. Save the shells for presentation later. Set the meat aside for mixing your stuffing after the sauté. Step number 3, sauce. For this dish, here I'm showing our P&W cider sauce, but in actuality, I made it with a twist. Maple syrup instead of honey. And I left the apples out as we're going to garnish with pears and figs at the end. Step number 4, heat. You want to bring your protein to room temperature 20 minutes earlier during prep to help browning. Fire your burner. Swirl a bit of healthy cooking fat to help browning. The first batch is protein, our ground paleo meat combination, which allows the fond, the flavor bits left in the pan after sautéing, to flavor the remaining batches and add depth to the dish. Notice how the bite-sized pieces are spread out for even cooking, and so steam can rise, which helps in browning. Oh my goodness, these caramelized bits look amazing and will be full of sweet, textured flavor. Once cooked through, turn off the burner and plate. The meat will continue to cook from the residual heat and create delicious juices. There is some of the rendered beef fat left in the pan, but I also add a bit more cooking fat as mushrooms will soak it up. They're like little sponges, and the fat helps them crisp in the pan. Spread the mushrooms evenly, again allowing space for steam to rise. Press to sear. And then push to the side of the pan. Add a dollop of healthy fat, and in go your shallots. Press to sear. And stir to combine. Beautiful. Sweet, softened onions with caramelized mushroom pieces. Wait to salt mushrooms until after they've browned, otherwise they can turn soggy. Now add in your green curly kale, the more tender of our vegetables. They'll need just a minute or so to warm and soften. Then add back in your ground beef, and don't forget the flavor juices. Stir to fully combine flavors. Now we add our sauce, a liberal pour of our PNW cider sauce. Again, this version without our apples because we're using pears instead at the end. To make our stuffing, add the squash meat you set aside earlier. Add a little or a lot, whatever feels right to you. You can't go wrong. If you have extra squash meat, we can make squash soup together later. Success! Delicious, nutritious acorn squash stuffing mix. To serve, bring in your squash cells and arrange however you're inspired. And then, stuff. An impressive dish, but so easy. Stuffed squash is a wildly nutritious, wholesome food, and filling, which helps curb food cravings so you won't feel the urge to reach for the packaged chips or cookies. Stuffed squash is also a delicious and versatile dish, easy to customize. Stuffed with different ingredients and garnishes, you can experiment with a variety of flavors and textures, whatever inspires you. Enjoy.